I'm going to talk today about two types of meditation. You might think of it as two levels of meditation, and one leads into the other. So there are many types of meditation. Meditation is a practice that's been around for literally thousands of years, across many different cultures all over the world. So there's no one right way to do it. It's really a journey of trying out different types, different styles, lineages, and finding what works for you. But a lot of the meditation that is taught today through the most popular meditation apps, for example, is really based on Buddhism and the Buddha's teachings. And, these modern teachers might kind of strip away all the spiritual elements and just leave the kind of core practices. But I think that it's really useful to go back to what did the actual Buddha teach about this? The person who really, I don't want to say invented these practices, but really kind of codified them or really put them into kind of a package that ended up working for a lot of people, millions of people over the years. And he divided meditation into several categories. There's loving kindness meditation, walking meditation, all sorts of different Buddhist practices. But the two that I want to talk about today are concentration meditation and insight meditation. And this is coming out of several different questions that I get often from people I work with about the breath and, why are we so focused on that? Is that kind of the goal of meditation, that we just keep focusing on the breath forever? That's all it is, just come back to the breath again and again. Is it possible to focus too much on the breath, to get kind of obsessed with coming back to the breath? And is it bad for thoughts to appear? Does that mean you're failing? Right? These are all common questions. And so I think a way of answering them all at once is what the Buddha suggested is that we start with concentration meditation. And the purpose of that, obviously, is to train you to concentrate, right? To train you to quiet your mind. And it's really important to know that you're never going to quiet it completely. That is not the success metric. That's not the goal. I've been meditating for over 13 years. And if you could listen to my head during an average meditation session, you would hear near constant thoughts. Constant thoughts are continually arising in me, even after all this practice. And so what does practice get you then? Well, it improves your ability to be aware of what's happening. So it's kind of the meta-level awareness, the ability to not just think a thought and get pulled into it, but to start to get pulled into it, and then to be able to take a step back and notice, oh, here's a thought. I was just getting pulled away into that thought, which was then going to send me to another thought and down this whole chain. And the more you practice, the more you can kind of catch yourself before you go too far down that chain of thoughts. So it's kind of, looking at a red car and thinking, oh, red. Rectangle. Kind of the raw visual information. That's where you start. And ideally, you would kind of stop there and just catch that and like, oh, thought. Okay, cool. Back to the breath. But if you don't catch it in time, then it quickly translates into, oh, car, oh, Mazda, oh, I used to own a Mazda, huh, I could use a new car, I should go buy one, right? It's this whole chain of thoughts. And the further you get down the chain, the further away from the present moment you get, the further away from concentration, from focus. And so the goal of concentration meditation is to train yourself to stay in the present moment, right here, right now, not going away into this speculation, into the future, the past, the what if, to stay right here, right now. And the only way to stay right in this present moment is through mindfulness. And mindfulness is simply awareness of what's happening right here, right now. But it's not natural, right? Our brain is naturally geared toward constantly thinking to kind of protect us, keep us safe. Oh, what about this? What about this? And so that's why we need to train ourselves. That's the purpose of concentration meditation. And so that's where the breath comes in. And it doesn't have to be the breath. It's just the breath is kind of the easiest way to start because it's always there, no matter what. Throughout your whole life, since the moment you were born, you're always breathing. So it's always available. And that's why the breath is a useful anchor. So that as you notice yourself getting caught on that thought chain, you say, oh, okay, thought, and then come back to the anchor of the breath because you know where to find that. It's always right here, right? So it's really easily accessible. When you get lost, you get your bearings by returning to the breath. And so that's how you hone your concentration, by noticing the distraction and coming back to the anchor again and again. And so each time a thought arises, you haven't failed. It's literally the thought arising is the opportunity. That's the opportunity for practice right there. So every time a thought arises, that's another opportunity to practice. Great. Right? It's like doing reps at the gym. Every time you lift a weight, you're building the muscle. So great, there's a thought, come back to the breath. And it's really helpful when you're anchoring on the breath to pick a specific point. So it could be the rising and the falling of your chest or your belly or the air entering your nostrils. I really like the nostrils myself. So, what you do is you don't just kind of theoretically come back to the breath, but you notice and you come back by actually feeling the nostril, feeling the air entering the nostril. That's the real anchor. So when I say come back to the breath, it means come back to the nostril. Oh, there's the physical sensation of air in the nostril. That's what it means to come back to the breath, right? Or the belly or the chest or whatever you like. And so the breath is the easiest one, but concentration meditation can look many different ways. Some people use mantras. You can just pick a word like Om or whatever you want, and just again and again you're saying Om, Om, Om. And so when the thought comes in, you come back to Om, Om as quickly as possible. When you notice the thought, Om. It could be looking at something. Some people use mandalas, like fancy pictures with like swirling circles and things, and you just kind of stare at the center of that. And every time your mind wanders, you come back to the center. So there are all sorts of things you could do. You could use sounds, like, okay, there's even the sound of the air conditioner running. You get distracted and come back to the air conditioner, right? The anchor is simply a way of anchoring your concentration back in the present moment. And so you can keep practicing this way for many years. There's a lot of juice in concentration meditation. But then you might ask, well, is that the end goal? Are we just doing concentration meditation forever? So that's where this other one comes in. What the Buddha would say is, once you get skilled enough at concentration meditation, then you can try on insight meditation. And that one isn't really possible until you're in the right state of mind. So what I will often do in a longer meditation session is I'll start with concentration meditation for, at least half the session. Just really focusing again and again on my nostrils, nostrils, nostrils. And then eventually I'll feel a kind of shift happen in me. I'll feel like the volume of my thoughts has been turned down a little. So there's still the danger of following that chain too far when thoughts arise, but the chain is a little blurrier. So it feels kind of a little less, there's less of a danger of getting lost down the chain. It's like everything is a little softer, a little easier to just stay present right here, right now. And that's kind of the cue that, okay, now insight meditation is possible. And to be clear, it really takes a lot of practice. So it might be months or years before the insight kind feels possible. And even then, during a session, you might have to, obviously there are different levels of all of this. It depends how deep you want to go, but it might take 20 minutes, even 30 minutes of concentration meditation before kind of the doorway to insight meditation feels available. Sometimes even in an hour session, you might not get there. It's really impossible to predict. Every day is different. And so what that insight meditation can look like is once that doorway opens, then you've been concentrating on the breath or whatever anchor for all this time. And to switch to insight, you can kind of soften that holding. You can kind of hold to that anchor a little less tightly. You can kind of zoom out just a little, take a step back away from that. So instead of just feeling the nostrils, you can zoom out to feel the whole face. And then the shoulders. Feel how the shoulders rise and fall along with your breath, and then how your chest rises and fall, and then, even your hands get a little involved, even your knees. You can kind of zoom out to your whole body. That's one way. I mean, there are many different kind of ways of transitioning, but really the core of it is just kind of expanding your focus. And it doesn't have to be physical either. It can be kind of mental or existential. It's hard to kind of plan, exactly what you want it to look like. It's really just being with whatever happens, whatever arises, wherever you end up. And it's called insight meditation because when you are in that state, when you open yourself up in that way, you allow insights to arise. Insights about the fundamental truths, the fundamental nature of self and reality. And that's where we go from meditation as simply a tool for improving focus and productivity into something more spiritual, more existential. If you practice enough, I would say the goal of meditation is not only to chill out and improve your focus in everyday life, but it's also to uncover deeper truths. Who am I really? What is this life really? What is this existence? What is purpose? What is meaning? Right? And I think that's where it's possible to get, but it requires the right state. And so that's the concentration meditation gets you into the state where then you can open up and explore these deeper questions. Once you're in that state, you can then pause to ask, okay, so I've been noticing these thoughts arising. Therefore, there's something separate from the thoughts themselves. There's the thoughts arising, and then there's something that's observing those thoughts arise. What is that thing? What is the true self that is able to observe thoughts, that is able to notice distraction, getting caught in the thought chain, and direct the awareness to return to the breath? Something is doing that. What is that thing? So that's kind of a great entry point into this existential realm of, okay, what actually am I? what is awareness? What is consciousness? Is it only within my head? Does it live in there? Is it larger than that? Where does it end? What is the boundary of it? What is outside of it? Right? So it gets a little woo-woo pretty quickly. But that's why I love it. That's why I love really deep meditation, and why I'm willing to meditate for over an hour a day. It took me years to work up to this, but it might seem like a waste of time to sit there with my eyes closed for an hour. And the reason is because I found it takes me that long to really get into that deeper space of, who am I? What is going on here? What is the real truth? So I think I'll leave it there for now. And again, there's no hurry. There's no right way. It takes a lot of practice, and I certainly, haven't reached the pinnacle of this by any means whatsoever. Not even close. I'm still very much on my own journey, but that's just a bit of what I've uncovered so far in my learning and my own experience, and I hope that's helpful. And I encourage you to keep practicing, keep working on that concentration meditation, and eventually I hope you'll reach a point where you feel like you're able to reach that deeper, softer space, that softer state, where then you can switch your focus to the bigger questions. Thanks for listening.